Hi, everyone. I am Violette Ayala, the founder of FemCity, and I apologize. We are 2 minutes late. My fault completely. I woke up in meetings, which is not what I like to do because Mondays are already kind of wonky for me. So our expert, our featured panelist and our featured expert today, Rhonda, has been so kind and so patient with me. So for those that are joining us, Rhonda is part of our FemCity Founder Circle. I have loved getting to know her throughout the last couple of months, and she's been a part of our community over there. And I find her to be so warm and friendly and so incredibly knowledgeable about marketing. Her expertise spans from helping corporations to also small business owners. So she is she has 25 years of experience in the world's most iconic brands, and she blends strategy and creative innovation to help position brands into the marketplace. So she's been doing this since 2010. So she has a lot of experience in this, and she's guided close to or over 1 million businesses, guided clients to millions of dollars in new business revenue. So she's definitely someone she's got proof in her work. So Rhonda, anything you want to add to my intro with you or view?
No, sounds good.
All right, let's do it. All right, so today we're talking about personal brand. And the reason why we're having this conversation is we have a lot of questions from our community regarding personal brand and how it impacts our growth. I know for myself, I'm always trying to balance my personal brand with FemCity. And so today we're hopping on and talking about that. Sorry, that was like the loudest car that drove by ever. Rhonda, and of course my AirPods broke today as well. So it's been one of those Mondays. Rhonda, what does personal brand mean to you for those that are just tuning in?
I guess personal brand is really how you're perceived, whether it's a bit tricky when you're in a small business, but because sometimes the business is you.
Yeah.
But it's basically how you're perceived out there and how you're different. And I was working with a young person last year who was struggling with their career, a person in their late 20s, and he was struggling in his career, and he didn't really have a personal brand. Like, he was sending out resumes and everything. And I sat down with this guy and I said, like, what have you done, and what are you really great at? So he started off, had been in commercial real estate, and he started listing off what he had done. And his resume basically had like a lot of blah, blah, blah on it. And when he told me what he had done, I was sort of adding up the numbers. He's like, well, I did this deal on this street, and I got this guy to buy this building. And so at the end of the conversation, I said to him, so you've closed $60 million or more of real estate deals? And he goes, yeah, I never really thought about it that way. And then I said, well, what are you great at? And he goes, I'm really great at finding deals. Like, he said, they're not things that are listed. They're not properties that people know they want to sell, but I go and match make and put two people together and say, I think you'd be interested in meeting this guy. And he said, I'm really creative I'm like, this is the kind of thing you need to be talking about. It's like, that's different. And it's, I guess, building a personal brand is like really getting to the core of what you do that's really different, because everybody's different, essentially. Yeah. There are no two people that are exactly the same. Yeah. So it's really it's like a dissection of what makes you really stand out. And that's what I'm all about, is standing out.
And I think it's important to highlight.
Whether,
yeah.
Pardon?
And I was going to say, I think it's important to highlight is that sometimes we don't see our personal brand. We have to have others tell us what they see in us, especially if we're not experts in marketing. So I remember like 15 years ago, and I share this story all the time. I was chatting with a girlfriend of mine she used to be a writer for a lot of these, like Mary Claire magazine and Cosmo, like just her. She's like, she was here in marketing and I was here, and we were working on my bio, and she called me a small business expert. And I was like, that's not what I am. And then she went back to my factual, like my receipts, and she was like, yeah, you've done this, 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 this. That's what you are. And so sometimes you need an expert on the other end, right? Who can look at you and pull out these pieces that you kind of feel like, well, everyone, I'm sure he was probably like, well, everyone does that, right? Like, I mean, everyone I know does that. But taking an expert to say, no, these are the pieces that you need to highlight, because they're not everyday people that can do that. That's extraordinary. So I feel like sometimes that information comes from the outside in.
Totally.
I'm saying that for those that are watching, like saying like, I can't figure that out for myself. I don't know how to determine that. Sometimes you need someone on the outside to say, these are the things that make you stand out. This is what you've done. Because sometimes our own narratives don't see how great we really are.
Totally. I mean, it's really hard to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
I was working at a design agency many years ago, and they were very into all this personality testing stuff. And they did this thing called the foresight, and it's to identify whether you're an ideator, clarifier, developer, or implementer. So, and it was like a quick kind of 10-minute thing. You can actually get it online. And I came out like so high clarifier. Clarifier was the highest. Ideator was next. Developer is someone who likes to kind of plan things out, and implementer is the person that implements. But they talked about how every team needs those 4 types. But I found out that I was like off the chart clarifier. Like I could look at things and see the answer quickly. And I didn't know that I had that skill. Like I didn't really know. I just thought everybody can do that. Like I could look and find the point of difference for a brand like really fast. But and that was like a huge eye opener for me, because then I started to step into that. And that's another, then you're like, oh my God. It's so much pressure.
Yeah. Once you know, you're like, that's who I am. I have no other choice but to step in there. So, okay. So here's another question that I get from our community. A lot of women struggle with visibility because they're scared of what people will say. They're scared of negativity that they'll receive. There's a lot of fear when it comes to really being visible and fully seen in your brand and your message. I mean, I shared a story, I just found out 2 family members, they ridicule they get together and they make fun of my videos. That's like that. Can you imagine like family members doing that? But anyway, so I found that out, and I was like, oh my gosh. So then it actually was like, I thought to myself, gosh, maybe I shouldn't do these videos anymore. Like maybe I shouldn't. So I started kind of retracting, and then I was like, no, wait a moment. I love creating these videos. I know I get personal messages from friends and from women that follow me that say, oh my gosh, because your video, I was able to do this and this and this. And also I make money. Like Facebook and Instagram pay me for my reels, so they send me money. So anyway, if I'm struggling with it, I can only imagine someone who's trying to just start out. So what would you say to someone who's really struggling with visibility and overcoming the fear of really being seen, and then also perhaps receiving not so kind words in exchange?
Yeah, it's tricky. When I started really putting myself out there in a big way, I got people sending me like nasty emails and stuff. And it was like really freaked me out. And then someone said to me, like, everybody's gonna judge. Everybody judges everybody. So why not just be okay with being judged? And I was like, oh, I guess I could do that. Like, because it's going to happen no matter what. The more you're out there, the more you're going to get judged. And I read something recently that said the more you're willing to receive judgment, the more money you make. They were talking about Richard Branson and how he's judged like crazy. Like the people that have done super well are super judged. So it's really only somebody's point of view. Like, who cares?
Right. 2 quotes come to mind. One quote for those that are struggling is, what Sally says about Susan says more about Sally than Susan. And I think about that all the time. Whenever I see a hate message, whether it's regarded towards me or somebody else, I always think that is the way their mind, that's their brain, that's their mind. As they're seeing that person, they're actually seeing it in themselves, that hatred. So, and the other thing that comes to mind is many, many, many years ago when I first started doing FemCity, I mean, we're at 16 years now, but I started getting more, the more you show up, the more hate. It's just statistic, right? So the more you show up, the more successful you become, the more comes back to you in probably not such good words. And this friend of mine said,
Yeah.
when I was like, oh my gosh, someone said something about me. She goes, oh my gosh, congratulations. That means that you're actually like, rising and you're elevating and you're excelling and you're growing. And I was like, okay, so now my daughter the other day, she had a message that was not kind. And I said, oh my gosh, congratulations. That's so amazing. That means you're actually like, making a difference and you're putting yourself out there and you're going to succeed. You're going to actually now bump to the next level of success. And so just changing, reframing in your mind and saying you are going to get people that are not going to like what you have to say. They're not going to like your hair. I mean, my silver hair, I have people that are like, you look like a great grandmother. You look, and that's fine. That's their story. It's not my story. So anyway, so those are things that came to mind. And I know there's some femmes watching. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I know Susanna mentioned working with a branding firm right now, and it's been an interesting process. Yeah, because you have someone telling you from the outside in, like about yourself. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, they ask you a lot of questions.
Any other
You got to
questions?
look at a lot of stuff when.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next question I have for you. What elements do you believe make a brand story truly authentic and memorable?
I think simplicity is super important. I've been going to a lot of networking things the last little while. And then, I ask somebody what they do. And usually it's such a long explanation that like my head's spinning, because a lot of us, especially who are more senior in business, let's say, have done a lot of stuff. And it's hard to really distill it down into a conversation. And people will be like, I've done these 15 things, or I do these 15 things. And then you're like, well, I don't know what this person does. So I tried this out a couple of weeks ago where I went to this networking event, because I also do like 25 different things. And I just said to people, when they said, what do you do? I said, I help businesses get business. I'm a
Ooh, I like
business development professional. And they were like, oh my God. Do you have a card? Of course, I didn't even have a card, because who has cards anymore? I mean, I haven't been out in like 5 years. So, but like just keeping it so simple like that,
Yeah.
it really got people's attention.
Yeah. What I love about what you just shared is that often we forget, like if we just mention how we help others in our pitch, humans just want to know what's in it for them. Like superficially, they just want to know, like,
Yeah.
how are you going to help me in my life, in my journey? And your pitch is absolutely perfect because that it's supposed to open up dialogue. A really good pitch is supposed to open up dialogue. It's supposed to pique someone's interest, supposed to pull them in. So I love that you perfected that, because if I were, I would be like, yeah, okay, sign me up. What's your email address or whatever? So
Yeah, like everybody's got that issue of how to get business.
yeah,
But it just kind of, I was like really looking to the core, like, I asked myself, what am I really great at? I'm great at helping people get business.
yeah,
I've been doing it my whole career. Like I did business development for all these businesses.
yeah. The
Hello.
Hi, this is Arthur. He's decided to join us. He's my old
Do you have any
man.
questions?
Do you have any questions, Arthur? No, he probably wants a snack, a little treat. He's on a diet. He's gained 50% of his weight. So, all right. So my last question for you, and I'm those that are watching or in the classroom with us, if you have any questions for Rhonda, please feel free to add them in the chat, and I'll ask on your behalf. How do you balance professionalism with personal vulnerability? I know this question comes up all the time with our women in the community in FemCity, and it's a really hard place because you want to show pieces of yourself, but you also have to maintain that professionalism because people are watching. So you don't want to be too vulnerable because you don't want it to hurt you. But at the same time, vulnerability does capture the attention of others and makes them feel a connection to you. So what's your advice on balancing those two?
I think know your audience, like who you're talking to. Like if you're in, I've been in some of these meetings for FemCity where people are very vulnerable, and that's okay because it's like a container and it's safe. It's a safe space, and people can kind of let it all hang out. But it depends. If you're doing an investor presentation or something, like you gotta just, I think, gauge who you're talking to,
Yeah.
and know what's where to cross the line. But I mean, I think realness is always appreciated. I don't think people have to put on, like, I remember back in the days, like, you were embarrassed to say you worked at home and you didn't have an office, right? Like that wasn't, 20 years ago, that wasn't acceptable. And now people are like at home, they're in meetings, their kids are running by, their dog's barking, nobody cares. Like there's sort of a more realness to things that are happening, but there's also the line where you could be a little too real.
Right. Right. I know many years ago during the pandemic, I made a commitment to show up every day on video. I believe that's what it was. And I was sick. One day I was so sick, Rhonda. I had like a tissue and my nose was all red, like Rudolph. And I I was there, then I was like blowing my nose. It was so gross. It was so gross. And so, but I had promised, and so I showed up. And later on, one of the members from our founder circle messaged me and said, "You know what, Violet? You showing up with your napkin and your Kleenex and your nose and like all that stuff." He goes, "It gave me permission to show up imperfectly also and to be honest and real." And so that made me feel so much better because now I do show up sometimes with makeup, without makeup. Like my hair was a little bit crazy today because it's Monday morning and I felt like I just was a little bit wonky today. But I feel like when we do show up like that, we're just human. I mean, we're just everyday people, doing the best that we can and showing up to serve and to help others.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that.
But I think
All
with
right.
the online world, like with Instagram and everything, there's too much perfection. Like everybody looks like they have the perfect life, and we know it's not true.
Yeah.
So it's a bit, I think people want to see real.
Yeah, totally. You're like, yeah, you know what? I'm glad to see real. I mean, I want to see real too. I did a video one time where I have a pair of yoga pants that make me look really, really thin. So I did a video of myself looking thin, but then I pulled down the front of my pants and all of my cellulite and my stretch marks and, my beautiful curvature of volume pour out. And I just wiggled it in the video and then I just waved by. And that was like my way of saying, these pants make me look thin, but the reality is this is what's happening underneath. And I had so many women reach out to me and say, "Thank you so much for showing your stretch marks, your scar, all the scars, all the fluff that was hiding under there." Because, I want people to feel better when they see my content because I want them to feel like we're all normal. We're all everyday women doing the best that we can. So, any final advice you have for us? This was so great, Rhonda.
Any final advice? Um, yeah, just keep it simple. Don't look too hard.
Yeah.
Think about the thing that you're really great at, that you've helped your clients so much with,
Yeah.
where you've really shown results, and focus on that one thing, not everything, because we all do a lot.
I
But I
love
think
that.
that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. That's a great
Keep
homework
it
piece.
simple.
Yeah, for those that are watching,
Ask
listening,
yourself, what are you really great at? What's the thing you're really great at? And then you'll
yeah,
know what to say.
yeah, and how it helps others. Like going back to Rhonda's pitch, what's the thing you're great at, and how does it help others? That right there, you just stick with that pillar. And at the end of the day, the most viral posts that I've ever posted on Instagram were the ones that were like, I have one that I just kind of fiddled through my hair when it was half brown, half silver, half brown, and that got I think like 600,000 views because it was honest and real. Like this is where I'm at in the process, and so sometimes just showing up as yourself, as Rhonda mentioned, is what people want to see. So awesome. All right. Susanna says, love that. Thank you. Usually I'm able to share the chats, but I think because they're coming through the private chat, I'm not able to share them on the screen. But lots of
Mm.
love for you, Rhonda. For those that want to continue to stay connected with you, Rhonda, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Email Rhonda at knowyourdifference.com.
Okay. And you can find her if you forget, you can always find her in the directory. And again, she's part of our founder circle. She's one of our featured experts, and she's here to help you navigate any branding questions that you have, marketing. She is definitely a guru in that space. So Rhonda, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and sharing your wisdom with us. I feel more empowered to take on social media. So I'm very grateful to you. Thank you so much. All right.
You're welcome.
Bye,
Pleasure.
everyone. Wishing you a great Monday. Bye-bye.